Arrest that robot.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Let's Talk. I'm John, and today we're here to talk about the 2008 sci-fi animated film from Pixar, WALL-E. We're also here to talk about its brand new 4K Blu-ray release from Criterion. But before we dive into that, if you are a fan of 4K Blu-ray reviews, tech reviews, game reviews, and movie reviews, we try to do them all here on the channel, and nothing would help us out more than by you liking this video and subscribing to the channel. WALL-E was released 14 years ago. It's directed by Andrew Stanton, who also directed Finding Nemo and Finding Dory. And it is considered one of Pixar's best films. And for a long time, WALL-E was my favorite Pixar film. It really took until almost Coco for it to be dethroned. And Pixar's been a huge part of my life. I've been following Pixar since their first release of Toy Story in 1995. They've always been something special to me. I pretty much grew up with the Toy Story films. Toy Story 3 came out the year I graduated from high school, so I'm pretty much right around the same age as Andy. So I've always loved Pixar and what Pixar does. And WALL-E was considered just their best film, their best achievement in filmmaking, and rightfully so, because this film follows around a garbage compact robot named WALL-E. After Earth gets abandoned, everyone leaves to go live on a ship because Earth, unfortunately, is inhabitable anymore. The Earth can't produce oxygen anymore, so all that's left is robots just cleaning up this planet, and one of those garbage robots happens to be WALL-E. He just spends his days basically just cleaning up the garbage and pulling out little trinkets that he wants to bring home to his little home that he has. And basically it's just a collection of things that really define Earth or history in general. He's got a whole collection of Zippos. He's got a Rubik's Cube. He's got an iPod to play some music, which is a nice homage to Apple and Steve Jobs, because Steve Jobs is actually one of the founders of Pixar, if you could believe that. And that's actually why WALL-E's startup sound happens to be the Mac startup sound. And you know, he's a pretty lonely guy, unfortunately. He comes home every night, he's alone. He's got a friend who's a cockroach that he hangs out with, but that's really it. You know, he wants love. He watches a tape of basically seeing what love could be, and he wants that for himself. And one lucky day, Eve happens to show up because she's here, she's sent from the ship to look and see how Earth is doing, to find some sort of life form, just to find out that if this planet is usable again, if we can actually return home, because it's been over 700 years since we have been on Earth. Unfortunately for human beings of Earth, they live on this one ship now. That's all the human beings from Earth that are left. Obviously, it's generations have passed, and even Fred Willard, who appears in this film, even says, you guys might have lost some bones, meaning that they've gotten extremely overweight as time has gone on, as they've become extremely dependent on technology. If they basically do not leave a chair all day. They just sit there, eat, watch movies, do whatever they want. The ship does everything. They don't even have to think. They don't have to worry. Everything is taken care of for them. Even the captain pretty much has all his directions done for him by the AI. And it's actually funny, the voice of the ship is voiced by Sigourney Weaver, so that's always pretty cool if you guys have seen the Alien franchise. But anyway, so that's what humanity is. But luckily, Eve finds a plant growing, because WALL-E found this plant, and he brought it home with him because he thought it was beautiful. And Eve, who's now been hanging out with WALL-E, and they're starting to build a nice relationship. WALL-E doesn't feel alone. They're starting to fall in love with each other. But when she finds that plant, unfortunately, she locks up, and she's got to go home because they got to figure out what that plant is. But WALL-E won't take that. You know, he's finally seen love. He's been all alone this whole time. He's like, you know what? I don't need to clean up trash. There is this Eve out there, and I know what love is, and that's better than cleaning up this planet that's been deserted for 700 years. So he follows her to space. You know, shenanigans continue, and basically it turns out to be one of the best love stories ever put on screen, and that is from an animated film. And I don't think I'm over-exaggerating that, because I really do get wrapped up in their relationship and their love for each other, because the first half of this movie, other than Fred Willard delivering some lines that you see, it's not even like he's communicating with anyone but communicating to us. So it's actually really cool to see how this film is basically a silent film. That's basically what they were going for. They were trying to make a silent film and just showing and illustrating everything. So there's some slapstick humor in this. It's basically just WALL-E and Eve for like the first half of this movie. And then even in the second half, when we do start to get dialogue from the human beings on the ship, the captain and everything like that, it's still very limited dialogue. There is not much dialogue in this film. I believe they said this is the lowest amount of dialogue in an animated film since Bambi, which had 420 lines. And that is really incredible, because it tells a compelling story. The score obviously does a lot of work to help you get invested in it, and I'm invested the entire time. I love this film. I got invested into it last night, and even up towards the end when, finally everything works out, because it's a Disney movie, everything's gonna work out. Even Wally are gonna live happily ever after, and they're gonna fall in love, and everything is gonna go swell. And even knowing all that, I still got a little bit emotional towards the end. And I get it, I'm being a little bit manipulated by the score, but I really do care about their relationship, and it's incredible that I care about an animated robot and her animated companion's relationship, but I really do, and it's just great storytelling, beautiful storytelling, with beautiful animation. I still think that this might be Pixar's best animated film, even though films like Coco and even this year's Turning Red, we're getting to the point now where everything becomes extremely lifelike, but this is shot so much like a film that it looks gorgeous. It's not shot like, oh, we're trying to make it look as realistic as possible, given that they are, but it's also set up to actually be like a film, like certain shots are just like you would see in a regular live action film, but they actually animate that whole thing, and then that really does add an extra layer to this film to make it feel like more than just an animated Pixar film. Even though Pixar films are the best, it's just a step above everything else, and that's what makes it special, and that's exactly why I believe that this is the best first choice for Disney and Criterion's marriage. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about right now, is that 4K Blu-ray release from Criterion. So for anyone who knows anything about Disney, they are not the biggest supporters of physical media. We've had issues with them this year alone, with Barbarian not coming to 4K or Blu-ray, and they hold the rights to that. They do not support physical media. All of their Marvel films that are on Disney Plus all have the IMAX enhanced scenes. That's the best version you can get, is actually on Disney Plus, not the 4K Blu-ray releases that they have released. And the thing is Disney charges an arm and a leg for their 4K Blu-ray releases when they actually put them out, but they put very low effort into them. There are very little upgrades over the Blu-rays. So it was almost like a dream come true when Disney said, hey, listen, we got Wall-E right here. People love Wall-E. It's probably a perfect match for the Criterion Collection, which always releases historically significant films, and this is a historically significant film and really does fit the Criterion mold. And they said, hey, why don't you guys take this and do your first Criterion Disney release? And my God, I was ecstatic when this was announced. I couldn't wait. This immediately became one of my most anticipated films of the year. And let me just tell you, I was not let down by what I received. So right off the bat, Criterion whipped out the fine china and whipped out their digipack packaging, and I am really glad that they did, because this is the kind of film that deserves that. So you get your classic. So you get that beautiful cover that I love. You slide that off, and you get another cover underneath. This is inside of Wall-E's home thing that he lives in, so it's all the stuff on the shelves, and you can see all the knickknacks, the spork that he finally finds for the first time where he didn't know what cup to put it in. You open it up, and if you look at the disc design itself, that is just beautiful, and that's only for really fans of the film who are going to even know what that logo means, and the fact that that's on all three discs, and the 4K is the one on the left in red, and then the two Blu-ray discs are the one in yellow. And it also came with this amazing booklet that really takes you through the making of Wall-E, the animation. There's some handwritten notes in there. I haven't really gone through it. I just kind of breezed through it real quick, but again, if you're a fan of these, amazing work again. A lot of work was just put into the package design, the disc design itself, and actually adding that extra booklet. So you could tell that Criterion did not half-ass this at all. They took this job extremely seriously because, again, this is going to be a big seller for them. So they want to make sure that this is as much of a showpiece for the Criterion Collection as much as it is a showpiece for Disney and what Wall-E is. So it really is a win-win for both Disney and Criterion. And the people who come out on top in this whole thing is us, the consumer, and the fans of Wall-E, because, my God, what a 4K transfer. Now, there has been a previous 4K transfer from 2020 from Disney themselves. That only had HDR10 on it, but the director did oversee that scan, so that was considered the perfect scan. And that is the same scan that is on this 4K disc, but now you do get Dolby Vision on it. Which you're probably saying to yourself, John, there's Dolby Vision on Disney Plus. And that is true. You do get Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos on Disney Plus. So that was my first comparison, was from Wall-E's 4K Blu-ray release from right now to the Dolby Vision transfer that is on Disney Plus. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's the biggest jump you've ever seen if you only watch this on Disney Plus and you don't care about extras and you just want, and you're like, okay, it looks really good on here, because this is pretty expensive, although you could buy it on the 50% off Criterion sale through November 28th from Barnes & Noble, so you could actually save a pretty penny on this right now. But anyway, back to how it looked. The blacks were definitely deeper on my 4K disc, and it really did pop. I was comparing certain scenes. The first scene I really went back and compared was the scene when they first realized what Eve came back with, and you know, the room lights up in green, and I went and watched that scene on Disney Plus, and then I watched that scene on my 4K disc, and it definitely looked better. The blacks look deeper on the 4K disc, and it also just looks like a slight, like the white balance is just slightly off on Disney Plus, and that could be just because it's compressed, because it is streaming still, so it's always going to be based. It's always going to be a little bit more compressed than when it's just reading directly off the disc, but it just seemed like there was like a slight white haze, and it's probably only noticeable because I literally was going scene to scene. I would like literally have Disney Plus set up on my TV on the scene I wanted and had that in my 4K player, so I would just change inputs this so I could do a scene by scene comparison of the two, and it definitely was noticeable, but not that much noticeable. I would say it's like a 10% upgrade from the Disney Plus stream, and it is reading off of the same scan, so it's really probably just because it's compressed, but Criterion might have went in there and did a little bit of color grading themselves to clean it up and make sure that the blacks were as deep as they possibly could be. But if you already have that original release and you do not care about extras and you just have that 2020 WALL-E 4K Blu-ray release, yeah, it might be a little bit harder for me to say that if you're just in there watching for the visuals and the audio and you don't really care about any of the extras and you're happy with what you got. I understand completely you not wanting to upgrade, because it does make sense. You're just in it for the film, and upgrading it just might not make logical sense. And I totally understand that, because it's probably not going to be the biggest jump you've ever seen. It is a 4K, so a 4K to 4K, like you will see some jumps, but it's the same exact scan. It's not like where we have the Halloween, where we have the Lionsgate and the Scream Factory releases, where the color grading has been completely changed from disc to disc. This is the same exact scan, it's just got Dolby Vision over it, so I understand you not wanting to upgrade. But by chance, if you have the Blu-ray that I had, it's definitely a pretty big upgrade over this, because this is a pretty old Blu-ray. This is actually not the scan that was approved by the director. He did that in 2020, so this one is a little bit off in comparison to the other two, and I really do think at the very least, if you are a film collector and a fan of physical media, I'd say at the very least you should upgrade that Blu-ray, because it is pretty old at this point. I just didn't, because at the time when that 4K came out, I was pretty disappointed with Disney and how they were releasing all of their 4Ks. They're charging it at a premium price, but they're not putting premium effort in. But I'm really glad that Criterion got a hold of this, because they put the extra work in. Like I said, this has a Dolby Atmos track on it, and it sounded incredible. Now again, same Atmos track that is on Disney Plus and on that previous 4K release, but it still sounded amazing. Like they're in space, anytime the ship goes by, you get that rattling from the woofer, your front speakers are making noise. It really does sound great. They made great use of my rear speakers, certain things you would hear traveling around the room. Like this was a great Dolby Atmos track. They put a lot of effort into making sure that I really feel like they went scene to scene and mixed this perfectly. It was an amazing Dolby Atmos track, and again, they put so much effort into making sure that this sounded perfect. So the visuals are a 10 out of 10, the audios are a 10 out of 10. This is one of the best 4Ks you can get. It is a slight upgrade from the 4K that Disney has previously released. Now, what sets this apart is what Criterion does the best, besides just the packaging, because the packaging is amazing, but it's the extras. They recorded a ton of new extras, and I actually went in there and I watched a bunch of them. And the one that stood out, it's the top one of their new extras, and they're talking about Ralph Eggleston. He's the production designer on this film, and tragically he passed away from pancreatic cancer in 2022 at the age of 56. But it just showed how he and the director, how they got together and they made this world from scratch. Like he was making board after board of just how the world should look. He was storyboarding the entire thing while animating it, and I think he said he had 55 for just the first act of the film, where any other animated film, because the director of this also directed Finding Nemo, I think he said that only had 27 total for that film. And again, it's just incredible how the amount of work that went into this. Like they had the world designed before they even started animating it, and I mean, the amount of effort into this, because I would say definitely, I think there's 12 parts to this. I could be wrong on that. But if you can go down these new featurettes and just see them looking back on what it took to actually go and make this incredible film, it's unbelievable from where they started to what they ended up with. It really should just show you how hard it is to really make a film. And then on top of that, you have to animate a film. So you're working with hundreds, if not thousands of people. And it It's unbelievable. You really have to take this baby step by baby step, and I recommend watching that on here. There's also the classic Pixar documentary from 2007. I've seen that a bunch of times. It's actually very easy to find, but it is pretty cool that they included. I always really appreciate that, and it's always fun to go back because it really does make me nostalgic. And just to be clear, there are 3 discs, like I said, so you get the 4K on one disc, then you get the compressed Blu-ray and the other disc with some extras, some audio commentary tracks, and the third disc is just completely bonus features. And that always is just something I always appreciate. The amount of bonus features on that third disc are incredible. Hours and hours worth. If you're a fan of WALL-E, this is definitely the definitive edition of WALL-E. You're going to get everything out of this. I couldn't even finish watching everything before this review. There was just so much on there. Like, I'm going to be going back to this probably through, because I'm off for the next few days for Thanksgiving. I'm going to be going through all of these, just checking them out, because I'm just such a huge fan of the film. And as soon as they announced this, I was excited, and they really did not let me down. And the fact you can get this right now at half price still is unbelievable. So make sure you scoop this up now if you can. I can still recommend this, though, at the full price. If I was going to give this WALL-E 4K Blu-ray release from the Criterion Collection a score out of 10, I'm going to give this a 10 out of 10.
Dear God, it's beautiful.
I really can't take anything off in good conscience. The packaging is great. The extras are great. The visuals and audio are great. Should I take a little bit of points off because it's not a brand new scan? I don't think so, because you're getting the total package here and you're getting Dolby Vision, which I do believe is the superior HDR. I think they did an incredible job putting Dolby Vision over this film. The blacks have never looked deeper. If you have a OLED TV, I'm telling you, you're going to be blown away by this. If you think I'm wrong, come back here and tell me, because I want to hear it, because I won't believe it, because it's just, I was blown away by this. I'm so happy that I wasn't let down. Been kind of disappointed by some 4Ks lately, and this really did just, it perked me up. I'm so excited. I can't wait for you guys to check this out. So guys, yeah, it's a 10 out of 10. It is the best, one of the best 4Ks of the entire year. Definitely scoop this up if you can. If you want to grab it from Amazon, we have an Amazon affiliate link. We'll leave that link in the description below. It's no extra cost to you, but it really does help us out. And another thing that helps us out is by you guys liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and then going out and telling all your friends.